I don't have a problem with it. I think it's great. I don't do drugs, so
That's good to know.
Any race car driver, though, I mean, but it also brings up the discussion. Like, if you want to race cars and you spend the money like we do and the time, you don't want to race impaired, because no matter what you do, if it's alcohol, pot, any type of
what
drug,
have you.
It affects your vision, it affects your reflexes, it affects everything in your body. I mean, I can't speak for everybody because I don't know, a lot of people that, I don't know what people do at the racetrack. But for me in particular, and a lot of my buddies that I do know, I mean, why would you want to chance it? I mean, it's just, racing's supposed to be a sober sport, and that's kind of what
Absolutely.
I thought.
Well, you mentioned at the national level, these guys are role models, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'm not.
Joey Tanner's a role model for a lot
That's
of
what I was
kids.
getting at. I was going to say, Joey, you're a role model for local in our area, if you will. I mean, you're a role model to me.
Well,
I mean, you're setting an example for these local kids. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're national, if you're local.
That's right.
In my opinion.
So, and going back to what Lauren said, the other side of that deal is, what if a guy is using, and he was giving medical marijuana as the cannabis as the example. What if a guy's using that to treat pain or to treat seizures, epilepsy? I mean, do you make it do you make it a case by case?
I don't know if you use that. Well, what do you say? Well, you can go ahead.
Well, he was talking about the benefits of cannabis to certain individuals that maybe had back surgery that needed it for pain or for anxiety or PTSD, or if a driver has maybe epilepsy and they're using it to eliminate seizures. That was something I hadn't even thought about. I mean, I don't know if you do this a case by case. If you look at each individual and say, okay, why are you using this? What's it for? How does it work? Do you make an acceptance on an individual basis, or is it a zero tolerance? Policy. What do you do?
How does NASCAR do it? I wonder. That would answer that.
Well, I'm a union worker. I work for the union, so we have drug policies as well, and we get randoms. And for ours, if you have prescription medication and you tell them beforehand, and you have a history of it with your doctor, it's okay. Like for me, I take ADHD medication. Just started getting off it, but I mean, when I got drug tested, I had to tell them, and it was okay. But I mean, it comes down to the point also when you get drug tested. Say if you're a young racer and you go out and have a party with your friends and you do some stuff, and it's a week ago, and then you get tested that next week, and you don't do it, but you get caught with it in your system. I mean, that's another thing, because when you get tested, it doesn't just show what you did that day; it shows what you did, 2 weeks ago.
It can,
and a week from then.
That's where the zero tolerance comes in.
I think that's right. On a recreational deal, I think it should be an absolute zero tolerance. Then you've got the point that Lauren made, which is a valid point. I mean, if a guy has...
that's what Justin Ratliff got caught with, honestly, to be honest. I raced with Justin when I was back there when I was 16 in Florida.
Nice.
And I hung out with him and his family. And they're really good people. I don't know if he just didn't want to take it because he thought it was nonsense, or... maybe he was, like I just said, maybe he did some partying or did something, that he doesn't usually do.
But
he
he did.
Want the repercussions of it showing up to people with nationally. So,
Well, and maybe his
the circumstances.
Right, and like I mentioned earlier in the show, maybe it was a deal where he knew, okay, look, I'm going to take this test. I'm going to come out dirty. What's the difference whether I take it and fail or I just don't take it and end up with the same results? What's the difference? Maybe he's looking at it like that.
The difference is, first of all, you don't have a whole bunch of guys like us speculating.
Well, right, and that's a major downside to this, because now you've got the entire racing industry, and I say industry, talking about us as a collective sport nationally, going, hey, what did that kid do?
Why didn't he take it?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I said I've never met Justin. I've never talked with him. In fact, I had never heard his name until today, when I was doing, reading on this news.
This case.
Yeah. And I thought, this would be a great subject to talk about. What is acceptable? What's not acceptable? As a track owner or as a series owner, what do you do? How do you regulate this whole deal?
Well,
you can't. I mean, if you have a policy and you have a set standard for your drivers, and if you have a drug test, there is no tolerance.
right.
You can't have anything in your system. There's absolutely zero tolerance.
And it's all defined within the lines of the drug policy itself.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing that was brought up in the phone call with Lauren, I think you might have heard, was that what if a guy's using CBDs that don't affect your mind, that don't alter your mind? I mean, I don't have a problem.
Anything affects your mind. Anything affects your. It's not just your mind. It's everything. The
reflexes
your body movement,
and
your reaction time,
your pupils,
the way your sight.
Right.
Anything that you take that has some kind of substance in it is going to affect you.
Right.
I mean, whether or not it's something to make you feel better or, cure something, it's going to make you feel different. It's going to make you act different.
Right. And most drug policies will allow prescribed medications as long as they're not abused, and that's
so. What?
Absolutely.
At what point do you call abuse?
Well, when it's evident, bloodshot eyes, staggering,
so what
wrecking
happens,
cars out of nowhere.
So what if a guy's got a prescription for, say, what's your
oxycodone?
So he's got a prescription for that, and his back's killing him before a 100-lap feature, and he pops 2 of them and gets in the car.
I probably don't need to be out there at that point.
But he's got.
But then that's abuse.
That's a bad idea.
Well, absolutely,
right.
It's a bad idea. But I mean, where's the argument? Where do you determine? Well, he's got a prescription for it. The doctor said he can use it.
Well, I believe that's where UA urinalysis would show
So
the level of it in your system at that time. Then that could be. That would be the determining factor.
Okay, and
I do believe.
maybe that's a possibility. Maybe that's something that they're going to have to look at, or they just say, "Hey, look."
And then also,
Go ahead.
Sorry, what you got? Oh, well, it also comes along with the lines when you sign in the racetrack, the track owners, the promoters, they have their faith. They have their faith in the drivers that they'll go put on a show, and everybody can drive up to their full capabilities with what at a sober rate. I don't think anybody second guesses the drug abuse at the racetrack. This is the first time I've ever heard about this in dirt late model racing. Obviously, you see it with NASCAR,
right.
but NASCAR's NASCAR. I mean, you shouldn't do anything because you're at the very, very top level.
That's 200 miles an hour,
and you're making a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, and here's a valid point. Listen to this, Joey. So Chris Frisbee chimes in and says
he's had some good
he
points
agrees
so
with
far.
Joey. Many of us racers do so much to try and win races. We spend thousands of dollars building cars. Why would we throw it all away? While racing impaired? We are doing anything we can to win races. Knowing that drugs and/or alcohol before a race impacts performance, I would be more concerned with performance-enhancing drugs like Adderall, which would improve reaction time and performance.
Mind-altering.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, I mean, there's, but some people react differently to certain different things. I don't know why anybody would want to alter their
mental state,
the way they are at the racetrack, their state of mind. I don't know why anybody would want to alter with that at all. It's kind of mind blowing to even think about like dirt racing, somebody getting hit with something. We've heard about Scott Bloomquist, back in the day,
right?
He
talked about that a little bit.
We don't hear about it anymore, and he's still winning a lot of races.
Right. And Joel Imamura, widescreen, he sends us, says, if you need to pop pills because you're in pain because you race to make it through a 100-lap feature, you don't need to be in a car. Look at Rob Maya, who had a fill-in driver because his back was hurt. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
So
if you're not capable of driving a race car, being normal,
sober,
with absolutely nothing in you to make it happen, you shouldn't be there. I mean, you shouldn't be driving. You can come and watch, like you said with Rob. I mean, if it came down to me, if I ever had that situation, I certainly wouldn't drive. I mean, it's I'm not making millions. We're going out there and having fun and trying to win races, and I wouldn't want to risk tearing up my equipment to
or someone else's
to drive
life,
and then possibly do something stupid and wreck somebody or wreck myself or
Right.
Put the track at liability, have liability for the track, with my stupidity. I mean, I wouldn't want that to happen.
Right, and it has happened. We've seen. I mean, we've heard about it over for decades. It's been an issue. I remember Claire was so strict on this, and I remember sitting in the stands when I was a kid, and a particular driver who will leave nameless.
Okay.
Was caught drinking in the pits.
Oh wow.
During the races. His main event was coming up. That driver never raced at Willamette Speedway again.
Oh, I do. I remember that now. Yeah.
That driver never raced at Willamette Speedway.
That's why they have the strict rule of no alcohol in the pit. I mean, that's what I would think would be the biggest one.
Right. Absolutely.
Guys drinking in the pit.
Uh-huh.
I'll guarantee you there's not a track around the country that is absolutely drug-free. I'll guarantee you.
I'll agree with you.
I'm 100%. I'm 100% agreeing with you. I guarantee you, there's people out there at every racetrack that do something.
There's a lot more going on than people know.
You never know.
And I think I honestly
you never know.
Yeah, that's right.
And talking about this, I think the biggest problem would be prescription drugs.
Yeah, there's a high rate of abuse with prescription drugs these days.
Big time. And like Lauren brought up, Xanax is one of the most abused drugs in our nation.
Oxycodone's another one that gets highly abused.
It's true. And that and the
hillbilly heroin.
Yeah, that's the other stuff that Rush was doing was Oxycontin.
Oxycontin. Yeah, those things are something else.
That's I don't think there's any room for that stuff that should be a zero tolerance deal.
Yeah,
I mean it really should.
Well,
if you're in so much pain, you got to take those pills. Like Joel said, put a backup driver, somebody fill in for you.
Yeah,
when Rob had to go have that procedure on his back last year.
Hats off to him.
He brought in another driver because he knows, hey, look, I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
and he wasn't even, as far as I know, using anything.
He wasn't even medicated. He was just in pain.
Right, he was just in pain. So and he knew, hey, I can't go. So he calls the guy, puts him in his car. And that's the way it should have been done. Smart move.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, with all that being said, Joey, 2017 is looking like what for you?
Well, I got a new 525 crate motor, and I was going to have a new car this year. We bypassed on that idea, and we're just going to go ahead and run my old car. We're going to run for Lebanon. We're going to run for the championship at Lebanon. In the late model.
In the late model, right on.
And maybe run a modified a couple times this year. Don't know the full deal about that, but maybe a couple times. Yeah. We'll know here in the next couple weeks, I guess.
Somebody else's modified you might be running?
You're such a tease, Joey.
Yeah.
What?
You're such a tease.
Do tell. No, we won't pressure you for that.
Someone called me and asked if I would, if I was interested in driving a modified a couple times this year, or as many times as I wanted to. And
awesome.
I told them, I love racing modifieds. I love racing modifieds. When I had my modified, I only raced it 5 times, and I had to get rid of it because I just couldn't afford to do both, and we were so invested in the late model program. But those were a lot of fun. I mean, I drove Gray's car at practice Saturday, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't driven a modified for about 4 years now. And
well, the last time you were in a modified, you had a lot of success.
I kind of broke his car a little bit, but
what happened?
Didn't mean to do that.
What happened in Gray's car?
Well, the track was really, really rough in practice, and everybody was, bouncing, and 1 and 2 was just really, really rough, and we ended up breaking a pole bar. It hit the J bar, and it broke the pole bar, and then ripped the drive line out. So
oh boy,
had to fix that. But it was track. It was mainly track
related.
The track.
Yeah.
But you get that with rough race tracks. You have drive lines break. You have J bars break. You have shocks break. There's just not a whole lot you can do to bypass to not break stuff on a track like that.
And those rough tracks are more abusive on the modifieds as opposed to the late models as well. They really are.
Oh, yeah, yes and no, because, it's kind of the same. In the late model, you're carrying more speed because you got bigger motors and you got a little bit lighter cars. So, I mean, you feel it just as much, too. And then in the late models, we're also running super soft right fronts. As are modified, but, I mean, our shocks are double adjustable aluminum as they're running steel shocks.
Right.
So it's you know, it's kind of comparable. I mean, I was watching